This week's readings focused on new models of assessment as they apply to digital literacies and multimodal products. To begin, one issue that arose within the class discussion through conversation in the chat was that of the value of assessment and how we view assessment in the first place. I believe that assessment is critical to the development of learners if assessment is focused on the learning of the students and the progression of their learning. Where a problem begins is when assessment is solely focused on what a child can and/or cannot do. Vincent states that in the early years of school, children work multimodally. Teachers accept expression in multiple forms. It is when students enter the formal grade level years that many people believe the real business of schooling begins, which includes grade earning and teacher pleasing. I question why there is such a focus on grades as opposed to the learning. As a teacher, I find it challenging to always assign a percentage grade based on what a student can and/or cannot do. But unfortunately, the public education system requires teachers to do so. In general, there seems to be an emphasis on success as it relates to high marks based on the standards rather than actual learning that is occurring. I believe that if we focused on the learning of a child, both the teacher and the student would not feel so pressured. Teachers would not need to feel so pressured to assess copious curriculum expectations, but rather facilitate the deep learning of these expectations. One form of assessment that I try to focus on is anecdotal notes through the form of descriptive feedback. When I assign a task to students, I find one of the best ways that I can offer assistance to them is to provide timely descriptive feedback and then sit in conference with the students in order to help them develop an understanding of how their learning can be better applied and essentially improve. However, one downfall to this is time. There is not enough time to thoroughly provide each student with the consultation they need to develop a concrete understanding of their learning. With respect to assessment of new literacies and multimodal products, I believe that this is a contentious issue. The reason for this is that having students complete assignments multimodally, for example, a visual essay, is in its infancy, and where there is change often comes great debate. Are the ways students learning and the way our language evolving so different that we need to develop new means of assessment? As the majority of university programs still favor reading and writing above other literacies, are we ready to make a huge jump into providing opportunities for our students to complete all tasks multimodally? Will teachers be doing a disservice to their students once they leave the walls of the elementary education system? These are questions that can be debated with respect to this topic. I believe that students are growing up in a digitized world where almost everything they do is multimodal. Therefore, it is important to meet students where they are and provide them with rich tasks that are meaningful. In saying this, I do believe that the authors of current research on this topic focus too much on the importance of multimodalities and leave behind reading and writing. Vincent states that we value the ability to express words above everything else. And I am not so sure that this is a terrible thing at the elementary level. As an elementary school teacher, I think that there is great importance in teaching students the foundations of the English language. That is, how to read and write. From here, students will be able to apply this knowledge to other tasks and schooling. I provide the students opportunities to complete work multimodally throughout the year, but many times there is a component that is to be completed through written word to develop their writing craft. It does not need to be long, but I think that it is important to do, and it is important to help students develop this skill. The multimodal tasks within my room are designed in a way that they are purposeful and rich, in a way that will help extend a deeper understanding of what is being learned by the students in school. When I am assessing multimodal works, I find it difficult to narrow down the criteria that I am to focus on, but do believe that it is important when assessing students' use of multimodalities. There is an overwhelming amount of information that a teacher gathers about a student when they produce multimodal work. In the class discussion, one of my peers mentioned that throughout the year they use a criteria checklist that students had to meet with their final products and the processes towards them. Students could choose, however, which criteria they wanted to be assessed on for each specific project, with the understanding that for the next task, they would choose different criteria, and by the end of the year, all criteria would be covered. This is an excellent way to collaborate with students and have them take ownership of the assessment to be provided. I agree that many of the marking schemes and rubrics that are available are focused on either the skills of using technology or the content, which would often be written work. But there is not much out there to use as a guide that blends both together, both the use of technology and the use of multimodes. It is a very onerous task to develop assessment criteria for multimodal works. This is why, at times, qualitative or anecdotal notes based on observations and video recordings is better to use for these specific tasks. In the class, another idea that came up was during the process of production, students could keep a journal as well as conference with the teacher to discuss progress and design choices. This allows for reflection and practice with metacognition. Allowing students to create multimodal products allows for the engagement and the success of all learners. It doesn't mean that students who struggle with written word are unable to communicate effectively, but they need an alternate vehicle to doing so. Multimode projects allowed all students to display their creativity, understanding, and knowledge in a way that they are unable to do with only a pencil and paper. Because of this sense of equity, it is important that educators discuss the issue more so that there can be some meaningful assessment tools debated and created. Education is for everyone, and if projects of only reading and writing are given, we are demonstrating that we value those students above others who can produce great work but need a different way to do so.